on this blue planet. Welcome to Issues and Answers on the WCEG Digital Media Enterprises Network. That's a mouthful. It's Monday, February 23rd, 2026, and as always, WCEG, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, seeks to speak life into our community. In May of 1882, a year after his death, the following adage was attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson. If a man can write a better book, preach a better sermon, or make a better mousetrap than his neighbors, though he builds his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door. Martin Luther King quoted that out of my favorite speech by his called Excellence. Now, in the Old Testament of the Judeo-Christian Bible, the prayer of Jabez in First Chronicles 4:10 states, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain." And God granted that his request. WCEG Digital Media Enterprises Network has continued in its quest to build a better mousetrap in the shadow of Stone Mountain of Georgia as we call on God to bless and enlarge our territory as we spread the gospel of life, humanity, and dignity throughout this country and the world. Now, in the event you have accidentally stumbled across this broadcast, there are many ways to access programming on this network. You can log on to WCEGTalkRadio.com on your computer or mobile device. Click on the icon that says live, live. Watch us on your smart TV by accessing WCEG channel via YouTube, Roku, Fanbase, Blue Sky, Twitch, or other popular streaming services. You can watch us live on Facebook and text in your questions and comments. You can also watch us live on LinkedIn. Can't text in anything, but you can at least watch us. If you missed the live broadcast, all of our programs are archived on YouTube and can be viewed by anyone at any time. If you have Alexa, just say, "Alexa, play WCEG Talk Radio." If Alexa says no, ask it again with feeling. Download our free WCEG mobile app. Now, some of what we say on this program might be offensive to some. Whatever is said on this program, the accountability lies with me, your host, and my guest. Nothing should be construed as thoughts and wishes of the management of WCEG Digital Media Enterprises. Now, excuse me, before I introduce our guest, I want to remind everyone that last month I interviewed General Sean Harris, who is a candidate for Georgia's 14th Congressional District. 2 weeks before that interview, I invited all candidates running for elective office, regardless of political party, to come on this program to share their goals and views with the public. Now, General Harris, whose 14th congressional district is voting now with early voting, was the first to take my offer. That offer remains. I don't want my program to be a platform for Democrats only or Republicans only. Our voters, our country deserve better than that. And if you want to participate as a candidate on this program, you can reach out to the station via phone at 404-490-8646 or by email at wcegtalkradio@gmail.com. Let Georgia and America know who you are and what you are about. We deserve to know that, no matter what your party. Folks, today we have two illustrious activists for truth and justice with us. Now, most of you remember Miss Jessica Fore. She is a former political candidate for U.S. Congress and hails from Athens, Georgia. She has a national reputation for speaking truth to power and successfully fighting bureaucracy to advocate for the survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault who often experience the double burden of religious abuse and patriarchal churches. Before the Me Too and Church Too movements, Under threat of excommunication, she successfully fought through the multi-level bureaucracy of the Presbyterian Church of America, all the way to the floor of the General Assembly to hold the organization accountable for abuse. This resulted in the denomination forming an ad interim committee on abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault, and appointing Rachel Denhollander as an advisor. She has been a guest and host on Issues and Answers before. Jessica, welcome again to Issues and Answers.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always wonderful to be with you.
Thank you. And our next guest is Dana Carter. Dana is a child advocate, smiles like a mother, grassroots organizer, and educator in Philadelphia. Dana is a Pennsylvania Level 2 certified teacher with 24 years of experience in education that includes experience in Philadelphia and the United Arab Emirates. She was a core and founding member of the Melanated Educators Collective, Racial Justice Organizing Committee, and is currently the lead organizer for Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, ATAC. In addition to advocacy and organizing efforts, Dana is also the director of learning support for 2 archdioceses of Philadelphia schools. Dana lives in Philadelphia, and in case I forgot to mention it, she is my daughter. Welcome, Dana.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, now. Dana has many accomplishments, and I want to jump on her first. Dana is very busy these days, and her story will tell you why. Her accomplishments are many, but today we want to focus on her participation fighting for the removal of the slavery exhibit in Philadelphia that was ordered taken down by President Donald Trump. Dana, welcome to Issues and Answers. I want to begin with your story of the process and the persons involved in this historic accomplishment.
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation. It's amazing seeing you, even if it's virtually. I can't wait to see you in person. But again, thank you for the invitation to come on your show and to inform your listening audience about our efforts to save the slavery memorial at the President's House in Philadelphia. So perhaps I should give a little bit of background of the President's House Slavery Memorial. I'm going to give you all the Cliff's Notes version because I know that we are on here for a limited amount of time. So Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, or ATTAC, as you might hear me refer to the organization, is a grassroots organization that was founded by Michael Cord on or around 2002. And back during that time, there was news that broke in the city of Philadelphia that the city was moving the Liberty Bell from 5th and Market due to congestion to 6th and Market. Wow. And during that time, when they were looking at places to put the new Liberty Bell, information came out about the place where George Washington used to live, which is actually America's first White House at 6th and Market, which people don't know. They always know that the Capitol is Washington, D.C., and they always know that the White House has been in Washington, D.C. But in 1790, there was something called the Federal Residence Act. And that actually established, to the best of my knowledge, Washington, D.C. as the capital and put the White House there. But while they were building the White House, they looked at the land and they said, this is swampland. So we need to put a temporary White House somewhere or President's House somewhere until we are able to build this White House. So that's when they put George Washington, that's when they put the President's House at 6th and Market. And so through that discovery that the President's House was in 6th and Market, it also was discovered that President George Washington also held 9 women and children and men at the president's house. African descendants, they were enslaved at the president's house in Philadelphia. And I think we all know that the rules, the rules with regard to slavery were a bit different north of the Mason-Dixon line. But in order for George Washington to comply with the law in Pennsylvania as it related to the enslaved, he would do what I refer to as border runs. Like, he would take them out of the city of Philadelphia for a period of time and bring them right back, because you can only have your enslaved people here for a specific amount of time. And to comply with Pennsylvania law, he did those what I call border runs, taking them out of the state and then bringing them right back in order to be in compliance with the law. All right, so once that was found out, Attack Avenging the Ancestors Coalition engaged with federal officials, state officials, city officials to recognize the fact that America's first president held slaves right here in Philadelphia, and they really wanted that recognized. So they received federal funding from Bob Brady at the time, who was a congressman, as well as Shaka Fatah. They received money from John Street, who was the mayor at the time, and with those funds, they were able to advocate for and successfully fight for the installation and the creation of the President's House Slavery Memorial, which now stands at 6 and Market Streets. So that's the story. It was an 8-year fight because they found that information in 2002, and the president's house was erected in 2010. So it was an 8-year battle to get it established, and everything was good. Attack held yearly events at that location since the location since the president's house was erected in 2010, and everything was great until 2025, and these executive orders came down, which threatened the authenticity, in my opinion, of these national historic places in our country that told the true history of America. Like, America's history is not all great. It's not all milk and honey. There are some tragedies and trauma that came as a part of building America, and we can't let some stories go to the side, right? We can't uplift the stories of the oppressor and forget the stories of the oppressed. So when we saw that the president was issuing these executive orders in order to, what I feel like is to whitewash American history, because black slavery in America is American history. When we saw what I thought were efforts to whitewash American history, we immediately began to mobilize, right? Because we already have our regular meetings and we already have individuals who support our cause, but we felt the need to bring attention to what was happening to the slavery memorial at the president's house at 6th and Market Streets. So we fought, we had our meetings, we engaged our supporters. When it came out that President Trump was going to issue these executive orders, but we thought that we were cool. Like, we were okay for a little while because he issued the executive orders in February of 2025. And it wasn't until January 22nd, 2026, like thieves in the night, well, actually it was the daytime, they came and they removed the interpretive panels from the President's House Slavery Memorial. They removed the monitors. They removed as much as they possibly could from that space, and they, in my opinion, just threw it and disregarded it in the back of a pickup truck, because we had people down there filming at the time. They put the panels in the back of a pickup truck and they took them to a secret location. But the great part about that is that we were ready. And the city was ready. So the day that they removed those panels, the very next day, the city of Philadelphia brought a lawsuit against the National Park Service and those individuals who were involved in order to get the interpretive panels placed back in order to restore the slavery memorial at the president's house. So that happened the very next day. So we definitely support the efforts of our city in order to help with our cause. So that happened on January 22nd. So the slavery memorial was like bare for a while, right? For almost a month. And then we had a great event where attack holds like a vigil, if you will, in honor of the 9 African descendants who were held against their will at Sixth Market. Every year on President's Day, they go to honor the lives of those individuals who lived there. And literally, as we were there, it was a huge rally. As we were there, we get the word from our attorney that the federal judge who was appointed by Bush in 2002 ruled in our favor and put an order in and ordered the National Park Service to restore the panels at the president's house. So we were all jumping for joy. It was great. But if you looked at Mr. Cord, Michael Cord is an attorney. So he was happy, but he was a little measured because he understands the legal process. So not too long after that, of course, the federal government appealed the ruling. And actually what they did was they asked for a stay of execution, if you will. If the federal judge would say, all right, they don't have to put the panels back now, they're going to appeal, and then that we can figure out whether or not we're going to put the panels up after appeal, right? That's what, but the federal judge denied their request for a stay. And so she said that those panels had to be up at 5 p.m. on Friday, which was Friday that just passed. But unfortunately, Thursday, before the end of the day, the federal government did officially appeal the stay. They appealed the judge's order to deny the stay to a higher court, Third Circuit judge, another judge that was appointed by George W. Bush, interestingly enough. And that judge granted their stay. But what he said was, you can't take anything else down, and you can't put anything back up, because what we were hearing is that these whitewashed panels were finished and they were going to replace the true history of slavery in America with these whitewashed versions of history, and they were going to put it at the slavery memorial. But the judge who granted their stay said, you know what, you can't put up anything, and you also can't remove anything, and you have to maintain what was there. So far they've restored 16 of the panels. We don't expect for them to restore any more, of course, because now we are in a legal fight with the appeal, and I believe our next hearing isn't until April. So we are in like a holding pattern, if you will. Nobody is doing anything, but the federal government is ordered to maintain that area. They were ordered by the judge, and the judge said they cannot put up their whitewash panels if they have those, nor can they remove the panels that they placed back at the slavery memorial at the president's house. So that's where we are today. That's the story in a nutshell. That took me 10 minutes. Sorry, it's supposed to be the 2-minute version, but that's the story in a nutshell.
Well, that's a lot of history that, number one, I didn't know, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers didn't know. So that's just great. But now we have to have a part 2. We have to have you back in April.
Yes.
To see what's up.
Yes, it will be my pleasure to come back. But in the meantime, please support our petition. You can go to our Instagram page, Press House Coalition. I run the Instagram page, so if you want to send me a message, you can. I run all the social media, Instagram, email. I organize the rallies. But if you want to send me a word of support, you can send me a direct message on Press House Coalition Instagram page. Our petition is also on the page, and so far we have over 8,000 signatures on our local petition. There is also a national petition that was created by Care to Petition, and that petition has 35,000 signatures. So we are definitely building our army of soldiers who are willing to fight legally for the president's house and for our efforts to restore the truth, to save the president's house, and to protect the president's house.
Wow.
Aren't you proud of me, Dad?
I am so proud. It's funny. You know what? They got rid of one Carter, but they forgot the one that's left behind.
That's right. They forgot about your radical child. I am.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, this is great. And there was actually, you may not know it, here, there was a lot of interest in your appearance here to tell this inside story that we're not hearing on the news here. And I know you mentioned Michael Cord. For those of you who don't know, Michael Cord is Philadelphia's version of Johnny Cochran.
Absolutely.
he is very well known and well respected and feared in some portions of the city. But
That's right.
yeah, yeah, and he's a relative. But anyway, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, Dan, it was great having you. Really, 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 not just as a parent, but as someone who's interested in social issues, especially those things that adversely affect all of us, that adversely affect all of us. So thank you so much for joining us. Uh, give my regards to Michael and all the people in your group. Spread the
Absolutely.
gospel, and the invitation is open for you to come back and let us know what's going on.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon. Thank
All
you,
right.
Dad. Nice meeting you,
My pleasure.
Jessica. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Sure enough. Wow. That was a little bit more than I expected. But anyway, that was great, great information. And Jessica, I had to have you on my program, probably like more often than I mean, there's so much stuff that you cover on your Facebook posts. And I mean a lot of it, it's not just word salad, for want of a better word. You post stuff that makes people think and and perhaps think about things in a different light. And I was really taken. I guess it's almost 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, where you posted uh, about your disenchantment about some religious leaders,
Yeah.
uh, based on the political atmosphere of the day. And for those of you who are not following her on Facebook, perhaps you'd like to expound on that a little bit here.
It's a really difficult situation when there is an entire stream of church culture, American white evangelicalism, for lack of a better condition, uh, that seems to have so thoroughly politically aligned with what passes now for the Republican Party, that there's kind of no limit to what people will go along with. And I think that what I'm observing is really a substitution of MAGA politics for Christian ideas or Christian orthodoxy, where loyalty to Trump has pretty much replaced and supplanted the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. And those are two opposite value systems, and so it's just kind of reached a point of such glaring disconnect. And I think that people who are still in that system, I've approached it as charitably as I could over the last, more than a decade that we've been watching the rise of this. We could sit here and talk about cognitive dissonance, where, psychologically, if you try to hold two different ideas at the same time, your brain doesn't like doing that, and so you're going to be very, internally motivated, whether you're conscious of it or not, to dismiss one of the conflicting things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some people, when confronted with facts that contradict their preferred belief system, and right now, I'm not talking about like their belief in Christianity or their belief in Jesus or their belief in the Republican Party as a separate thing,
Mm-hmm.
but their belief system that those are the same thing, right? The belief
Right.
system, if you're a Christian, then you're a Republican. Um, like, when facts are introduced that contradict that desired belief system, you can either change your belief to suit the facts and say, hey, we have gone out and voted for an adjudicated rapist and a convicted felon after he staged a violent insurrection on national TV and tried to let a mob murder his vice president. That's not consistent with the teachings of Jesus. You're either gonna dismiss your belief in Republican alignment with Christianity, or you're going to find all kinds of bad faith arguments and excuses to avoid doing that. And I think we're just kind of at a point right now where there's a lot of people that have not been able to hit rock bottom on
Mm-hmm.
their attachment to that ideation.
You know, and I hope I'm not going to go too far afield from where you're going because I like where you are. but you brought up cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
My example of that, for those of you who that's like too nebulous of an idea for you to grasp, I just like to remind you that in July of 2025, the president ordered a nuclear facility in Iran to be bombed. After that bombing took place, the president and his staff of experts stated that that nuclear facility, which was their main nuclear facility, was obliterated. That's their word, obliterated. But now we have thousands of troops, naval fleets, warplanes about to attack Iran because Iran is a nuclear threat. So, my question is, if it was obliterated in July 2025, why is it a nuclear threat today? Mm-hmm. And that's part of what you say. Two things cannot be true at the same time. And so this is what happens when you begin to merchandise fallacies and you're merchandising them to people, and I hate to put it this way, who are not critical thinkers, mm-hmm. who have short attention spans and can't and actually feel it's a threat to them and to their intelligence when you speak facts. And as you are accustomed to, speak truth to power. And now you become anti-American. Mm-hmm. And going with another thing that you said, and I talk about this a lot. You and I are old enough to remember the Republican Party as it was, the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, and the other little, like the Greenpeace Party and all that. But this that passes today as the Republican Party is not the party of Reagan. It is not the party of, definitely not the party of Lincoln. it's just, it's a totally different animal out there. And I use the example that the MAGA movement is a leech that says suck the blood out of the Republican Party, and it's manifested into something that's totally different. Mm-hmm. It's different because they are both loud, they're arrogant, and they're very uncivil, and that starts from the top. Mm-hmm. So, and again, we go back to Christian ideals, and it just flies. If that's the ship that you're riding on, that's a sinking ship right now, because there is very little Christian about what they're doing and what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that, you know, you summed it up. You made that's the truth of the situation. I mean, you know, when we have stuff happen like the president of the United States revising someone who, you know, was murdered in cold blood, and we've got video on it from multiple angles and all that stuff, and just revises that story to say, well, they're a domestic terrorist and they were a threat to the officer, and so on and so forth. You know, or when you've got the president of the United States who goes and posts AI videos with all kinds of ridiculousness, you know, dumping on protesters and things like that. You know, we could sit here and say, well, if a Democrat did that, you know, it would end their career. But I mean, if George W. Bush had done that, you know, it would have ended his career. It's the people that have been principled conservatives who actually believe in upholding the Constitution and limited government and the things that conservatives have said that they believed all this time. Those people have gotten booted from the MAGA movement. Those people have been recast as rhinos. And you start following the rabbit hole down on this. Like I don't have misty-eyed fondness for the previous Republican Party, because even if we do go back to Reagan, and even if we do go back to the moral majority and all of that stuff, there's an awful lot of that ideology that falls apart as soon as you start looking anything up. Specifically, cutting taxes on the wealthy doesn't cause prosperity to trickle down to regular people. That was just a lie so that people would vote for tax cuts for the rich. We've got 40 years of data demonstrating that. The revision of abortion and homosexuality as being like the core issues that determine whether or not someone is moral or whether someone is a Christian, or just making those the political things to latch onto to try to appeal to a white evangelical Christian base. It's based on a lot of false information. It's based on even the idea of the people who say, well, I'm pro-life, so I voted for Trump because I care about, protecting life in the womb. And they didn't bother to Google the abortion rate and what happened to it under the first administration, because he was the first president under whose watch the abortion rate actually went up after 50 years of going down, and going down more steeply under Democratic presidencies than Republican ones. Democratic policies reduce unplanned pregnancies, and they make it more feasible for someone who does have an unplanned pregnancy to decide to go forward with that and raise the baby and have some economic hope. So yeah, it's a big mess, to put it mildly.
And the other part about that is, okay, and I thought the Pope weighed in very well last week about being pro-life. And basically he says, you can't be pro-life if you're supporting the way we're treating undocumented immigrants.
Right.
That's horrific. And you just mentioned about the murder of two people documented right there for you on TV. And, to say that these people who, even the person who had the gun on him, didn't have the gun drawn, did not do anything to indicate that he was going to pull the gun. He was just bending over helping a woman. And this man was shot 10 times after the gun was pulled off of him, pulled out of the back of his belt. That's murder.
Yeah.
That's murder. And if any, and this is what burns me as an African American, is that if there was a video of an African American being shot in that manner by a police officer, the entire populace of African American populace and leaders, they would be out there shouting and screaming, protesting the street, running up and down. But because it's a white person, everybody's quiet. And when I go back to that poem that I talk about all the time. First they came. You're going to sit there and be quiet about this, but then you expect people to be outraged when it happens to people of color. That's just crazy, and it makes no sense. It's inconsistent. It's inconsistent, and it burns me up that we don't have so-called Black spokespersons joining everyone else and saying that this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And for it to be justified by what we now know, we have a Justice Department that's basically an extension of the executive branch.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Yes.
And who's this guy, Patel? Did you see him at the Olympics? I mean, this is the leader of the FBI acting like a blooming idiot when we have a major kidnapping case going on here with Miss Guthrie, and you have a potential assassination attempt at Mar-a-Lago. Presidents happen to be there, and you're over there in Italy gallivanting with hockey players and swigging beer and jumping up and down and acting like, as we used to say, now I don't want to use that phrase because I want to get into that later on, but just acting crazy and totally irresponsible. And these are the leaders of your Justice Department. This is the leader. What's happening in Fulton County? With, I mean, this looks to me as if this is the first shot across the bow of major voter suppression in November for the midterms, and definitely portends something very bad happening when the next presidential election comes out.
Yeah. I mean, the raids that we've seen in Minnesota are, it's approaching that from a multi-pronged way, because they are going to try to intimidate people, try to keep people from voting. There's certainly the sentiment that a lot of these dramatic raids are intended to try to provoke riots, to try to provoke some kind of violent response that would create a pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act. And they went into Portland and they went into Minnesota, and what they found were people that were deeply committed to protesting peacefully, and so they were not able to provoke that response. And so they've got to find other pathways to try to intimidate voters or to try to cast doubt on the elections process, when the fraud that we're seeing happening is stuff like lying about the 2020 election and then summoning a mob to the Capitol to try to storm it and try to let a mob go murder the vice president and the speaker of the House to overturn election results. And so you've got all this projection, you've got all these accusations about what the left is doing that are what the right is actually doing at this point.
Yeah, and again, cognitive dissonance. When you can tell people there's an actual attempt by thousands, tens of thousands of people to kidnap legislators, to kidnap and hang the vice president of the United States, and you have the president and certain cowards in Congress saying this was peaceful. People died.
Yeah.
People died. A woman was killed. Now she was killed. She was shot by Capitol Police, Capitol Police officers. But she was trying to access a room to kill and kidnap legislators.
Yeah.
She could have definitely backed off. Yeah. She could have said, you know what, this is a bad idea. This is just awful. And there are people who are listening to us right now who are saying that we are ultra liberal propagandists or whatever. No, we are truth tellers. Yeah. We're telling you the sky is blue when the sky is blue.
Yeah. Well, and it's how that criticism is made about American, I would say American Democrats or American leftists, but that criticism is made about anybody who's not all the way full right, MAGA, Trump loyalty, no principles, go along with anything. Anybody to the left of that, or anybody who questions Trump, is now a radical leftist, and is propagandizing people. But if you look at international press, if we look at the reporting on these issues, the fact reporting out of NATO countries and advanced democracies around the world, they're all on the same page about the facts here. And somehow, they want you to believe that Democrats are, successfully spinning propaganda that, like, we didn't win the election, but we've got the entire free world on board with us right now about what's happening. That's not plausible.
I make it a point to every so often, especially at night, listen to BBC broadcast, because I can speak Spanish a little bit. I listen to Telemundo. The stories that even the best national media that we have here, sometimes their slant on these stories are not what's really happening. And you do have to look outside of this country, uh, to BBC or other news outlets, um, just to get a different perspective. Uh, and if you are short-sighted, myopic, or just brainwashed enough that you only listen to Fox News to get your information, then the brainwashing has encapsulated your brain. I mean, your brain is cooked because that's. I mean, I'm going back years ago before we had these national news media. I used to always try to read multiple newspapers because you get different slants on different stories, and somewhere in there you're going to find the truth. Uh, but to allow yourself to be uh, a puppet or uh, just a victim of what we now have is almost a government. We have the Fox News has turned into the American Pravda. Is and that's the way I characterize it. For us old folks, Pravda was the government controlled newspaper for Russia, and it was a propaganda vehicle. And if you listen to Fox News, it's propaganda, and it's very seldom truthful. And that's what's that oxymoron? Truth, social, really,
Yeah.
really.
The Ministry of Truth.
The Ministry of Truth. Here we go. As the judge says, back to 1984,
Yeah.
He characterized it. That'll be good reading for some of you folks. Read 1984 and see how closely it resembles to what the president and the MAGA movement, along with Stephen Miller, is trying to do. I want to touch on one thing here, Jessica, is I want to touch on something that affects everybody. Measles. Mm-hmm. Measles was supposedly eradicated in the year 2000 in the United States. Last year, Texas had, I think it was over 700 cases. Last year, Texas had 762 people come down with measles, and 2 unvaccinated children died. This year, there's a new epicenter, and I don't think everybody knows that because I haven't heard it on TV. But South Carolina, next door to us, is the new epicenter of measles. So far this year, they have had 616 people infected with measles. Since October of last year, there have been 950 people infected. And I remember reading somewhere, I think the majority of these people who are infected were unvaccinated people. And a lot of this has come from the fact that, and I'm going to put it the way that I feel about it, we put a drug addict in charge of medical care who promoted the fallacy that vaccines are dangerous, and millions of people have bought into that. And because they are stuck in that political world of alternative facts, their children, some of these children are going to be scarred for life. Some may die. This is not hyperbole.
Yeah.
And it's because people have embraced this MAGA directive that vaccines are bad.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy, just absolutely crazy. Yeah. And South Carolina, we're here in Georgia. South Carolina is much too close to Georgia. And you know one thing I found? That out of the top 5 states with measles right now, 4 out of those top 5 states have Republican governors.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's people adopting a fallacy because they're intimidated by the president of the United States and his goons. And that starts with um, uh, Tell, Pam Bondi, um, the other lady, the one that came down here to Fulton County, the head of the intelligence. And she
Oh,
was hiding, can't think of her name right now. But no, Christy Nome. Nome?
yeah.
No, no. Yeah, yeah. She loved killing pets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the people that we are put in high positions of esteem who they have no qualifications to be in those positions, but we put them there. Who was the guy? He was the assistant. He left after all these people got killed. Fox News commentator. Um, he just left 2 months ago. I can't think of his name right now. But these people that Trump put into place just because uh, they're his buddies. All of these pardons that have come up lately, and these pardons of drug dealers and murderers are people who are rich people who have made major contributions to the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
The man is enriching himself. Uh, the Board of Peace. My God, folks, wake up. The Board of Peace. You have to pay $1 billion to join. Who gets the $1 billion?
Hmm.
Cognitive dissonance. Okay, let's tax, put tariffs on everybody
Yeah.
because let's do 15% tariffs now because I got the Supreme Court knocked down my other tax policy. So we're going to do 15% tariffs overall, and that's going to benefit America.
Yeah.
Okay, MAGA folks, listen, 15% tariffs, you're paying for that out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
The countries aren't paying for that. You're paying for that out of your pocket. So this is like kicking somebody in the teeth and they're saying, "How do you feel?" And you say, "Well, can you kick me again?" It makes that much sense. I don't understand intelligent people, seemingly intelligent people, embracing this nonsense and not being able to reason that it's not okay and
Mm-hmm.
it's not beneficial. It's just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Boggles my mind. So anyway, I want to hear a little bit more from you. I didn't want to just go off on a rant here.
I like your. I think that you have good points.
You have great ones too. Please don't diminish yourself. Uh, I make sure I read all of your posts that I see. I really do. I try to comment on all of them, but COVID is another one that's that people aren't up on, and COVID, the top 5 states out of the top 5 states um, who are responsible. Each of these states are responsible for 12% of the COVID cases in the United States. That's New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Out of those 5 states, 4 are led by Republicans. And their percentage is 12% of the cases, each of those states. The rest of the country's positivity rate is between 5 and 9%. So there's a problem, folks, and this is a health issue that COVID killed people. There's nearly 1 million people in the United States. COVID killed people. And part of the problem in the United States, and we forget it now, is because the president came out and said it'll be over in April when the weather gets warm.
Yeah.
People believe that. He promoted a drug that he said that he owned, had a financial interest in. Was it Oxy something? Something like it was a quinine derivative, but he had a financial interest in that company. What's that?
The hydrochloroquine, when that was,
Yes, yeah. He had a financial interest in that and promoted it, and that was never tested. And it comes to find out that that had no effect on COVID, on curing COVID or making the effects of it less. And people bought into that. And I'll always remember we had a commentator on WSB here in Philadelphia radio. His catchphrase was, "We're not all stupid." I can't think of his name now, but he was a Trump supporter, MAGA supporter, Republican, and in the height of COVID, there was a rally in Colorado that he attended with with hundreds of other people. And although there was a national directive for us to wear masks in crowds, the people at this conference, at this rally, purposely did not wear masks because the president wasn't wearing a mask and didn't promote masks. And this radio commentator caught COVID. And there's a picture of him at this conference, smiling with his wife and some other people and grinning without a mask. And 3 weeks later, he was dead because he contacted COVID. Very popular here in Philly. I don't know why I can't. I'm here in Georgia. Can't think of his name right now. African American guy. He was the head of Godfather's Pizza. That was his big claim to fame.
Herman Cain.
Herman Cain. Yes. Yes. Godfather's Pizza. That did it. But yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on Godfather's Pizza. You know, that was some good stuff.
But it is. I liked it too. Yeah, but it's that type of I don't know how this or are there certain types of people where that are affected by this bizarre thinking that's emanating from the White House or from the MAGA movement, that whatever they say must be true, and this is what we're going to do, even if it kills us. It's bizarre. It's dangerous. I have no answer, no words, but you know, we need to talk about this because if we can save one soul, you and I together, we can save one soul just by making one person think that, hey, you know what they're saying on there makes sense. Yeah. We've accomplished something. Yeah. As we got about 5 or 6 minutes before we get out of here. Is there anything you'd like to vent about or just throw out there before we?
Well, just you know, I think that your relationship to truth is one of the most important things about you, and especially for people who claim to be people of faith. You know, I think a precursor to having faith is caring about what's true and wanting to wanting to embrace facts and wanting to adjust yourself to fit what's true and what's right, instead of dismiss what's true and what's right to keep going whatever direction you prefer to go in. And so, I think that we are overdue for a reckoning with just people's relationship with the concept of truth, and caring about looking up information and verifying it, and just grabbing onto a narrative that feels like it protects psychological defenses, right? So, and I think that all ties into the disillusionment with, with the white evangelical church that claims to follow the way, the truth, and the life, while making a willful decision that truth doesn't matter when it comes to checking facts that support certain political narratives.
You make me think about, and I was going to mention it earlier in the program, about Christian nationalism, which has almost nothing to do with Christianity, and hardly anything to do with the ideals behind what make this country great.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I wanted to close out with one thing, Jessica, that brought outrage to me and to many other people, particularly those of African American descent. And that was the president's portrayal of Michelle and Barack Obama as monkeys, and then having the gutless nerve to blame it on some mysterious staffer when it was on his page, and he controls that page, and no one else is on that page. And for his press secretary, I guess she wants to keep her job, but to mollify the impact of that on millions of people, not just and I want to, and I hope everyone can grasp this. It's not just That's not just offensive to African American people, but it's offensive to non-African American people who embrace us all as human beings. And it takes this country backwards in the eyes of the world. Some of you may be too young to remember, but back in the 60s and the late 50s and the early 60s, the world was looking at this country and saying, how do you promote and talk about humanity and human rights and civil rights when there's a whole group of people that you treat poorly and you have it legislated in laws. It's in laws that that gives you the power to treat these people poorly. And that puts you in conflict with what you say are American ideals. So here we go now. We're in the year 2026, and we have the leader of the free world putting on social media for the world to see a portrayal of the former president of the United States and his wife as monkeys.
Yeah.
And that is unconscionable. And the fact that so few Republicans have the guts to speak out against that shows that we have a bigger problem in this United States than just Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we cannot forget. And I hear people saying all the time that, and you hear on Sundays, I hear people. Somebody told me the other day, "Oh, we just need to pray. We just need to pray. We need to pray." Well, you know what? The United States of America made a decision. It was a bad decision. That decision was made by people who voted, who really didn't think before they voted, or who compromised their own sense of morality and values, and people who sat on their butts and did not vote. There were millions who did not vote, who were registered. This, and I know that some of you folks who believe that prayer solves all things, are going to feel in conflict with this, but you know what? This there are examples in the Bible where people went against God's teachings and they had hard lessons to learn. They had hard lessons, and those lessons didn't last for a day or 2 days or 3 days. Some days those lessons lasted for a generation. And I'm telling you that America made a serious, serious mistake when it allowed Donald Trump to come back to office as president of the United States. And I'm going to tell you how bad it is. I'm making a prediction that I want you to, that tomorrow, when he has his address in the White House, count how many times he says, best that ever happened, the greatest thing that ever happened. Nothing like this happened before me. And listen to the self-aggrandizement that goes on throughout his speech. You know who does that? A lot of promoting themselves. Did you ever look at, well, I put it this way. When you do good things and great things, you don't have to talk about yourself. Other people will talk about you.
Right.
And the fact that you're engaged and have to engage in self-promotion says a lot about who you really are and how insecure you really are. Mm-hmm. I could go on, but you know what? We're out of time. We're out of time. Jessica, it's always great. We need to spend more time together. Yeah, I really, really enjoy having you. Like I said, your perspective on things often may differ slightly from mine, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. This is what America is about, and I really enjoy having you on, and I look forward to having you again right here with me on WCEG.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. And to all our listeners and viewers out there, thank you for joining us on this installment of Issues and Answers on the WCEG Digital Media Enterprises Network. And we look forward to seeing you again in about 2 weeks. And who knows where we'll be then. But